Great. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate the opportunity today. And for all those who have joined the call today, my name is Paul Gonzalez. As Anthony said, I am the regional director who handles the western half of the country for the transactional markets group team, which is currently responsible for the guaranteed issue whole life product marketed on American General Life paper under the AIG brand. And today we wanted to go over our product, give you guys a little bit of information on where we can position our guaranteed issue whole life product, how we fare versus the competition in the space, and then the most important thing, which is the process on how to obtain applications, how to use our e-application portal, and then what to do after you submitted some business. Of course, the very first step before you get anything out in front of a customer is knowing the product itself and understanding where you can get to your resources that would be necessary for you to get some answers to any questions you might have. And that great place to start is our playbook. And for those of you who are not familiar with our playbook, that web address is aig.com/GIWL playbook. Again, that's aig.com/GIWL playbook. It's a live site that you just put that address in your browser and click enter. You do not have to be appointed with AIG in order to have access to this site, so it's a great opportunity for anybody who's trying to learn a little bit more about our offering to get just a good understanding of the things that are out there and the resources that are available. On the home page, it's probably not anything you'd be utilizing, but this is really more of a recruiting tool that we use with our brokerage general agencies to help them to get the reasons why an agent might want to take a look at our guaranteed issue whole life product, which we call the top 10 reasons to sell. But page 2 is really where you'd probably start as an agent. Page 2 is going to give you some information in general about doing business with AIG. Our contact sheet is on there for our team, not only the sales team, but also the correct contacts for licensing and contracting, for new business, and for any follow-up after you have business in place. There's some additional guidance into our site Connects, which Connects is our new agent portal. If you have done business with AIG in the past, you might be familiar with eStation. eStation is migrating over to Connects. So Connects is where you go to find your commission statements, to track any pending business, look up any in-force business, etc. And then there's a great sheet, which I do want to highlight on the second page, is that GIWL FAQ and tips. We have been in the business with this product for just over 4 years now. And our sales desk, who answers the majority of our calls from our agent base, has done a great job of taking a lot of the things that they've heard on a consistent basis as far as some questions that might not be clear in the product guide or just might need a little bit further clarification. Those questions are on that FAQ and the answers are there as well. And I would definitely encourage anybody who, after they've had a chance to take a look at the product and take a look at the product guide, if you have additional questions, go to that GIWL FAQ. It's a great resource. The third page on the website is the product and rates. And this is where you'll find the producer guide with all the details on the product. There's also an annual rate calculator and a monthly rate calculator. For those who are unappointed with AIG, you will not have access to the actual illustration tool, which is housed in the platform itself where the e-app can be written. So this is a great place to go to get an idea of how much this type of policy costs for male, female, and whatever age they are. And then that last page is the product highlight sheet, which is basically the cliff notes for the producer guide, very, very high level detail on the product itself. And we'll be getting into the details when we get to the presentation in a moment. What I'll be going through in a short moment here is the GIWL product training, which is that first thumbnail. If you wanted to look at the slides yourself and at a future time, you can definitely open up the slideshow and go through all the slides. There's also the speaker notes attached to them. So if you ever had an opportunity where you needed to train some additional agents in your downline, you have the opportunity to use our product training. And there's also a great training and webinar flyer if that's something that you need. And then some specific guidance in a different training around our e-signature process. But we'll be touching on all of that in the presentation shortly. And then the last thing is the marketing materials that we have available that you could use directly with your insured or your proposed insureds. You've got a consumer brochure and a couple of consumer flyers that are at a higher level for the customer to understand. one of the consumer flyers actually does have some sample rates, which can help when you're out there prospecting. So this is a very limited amount of customer level marketing, but it is the information that we know is helpful and useful when you're sitting across the table from a client or on the phone with a client. I will tell you that we're aiming towards a paperless environment, and I'm sure this is the first time you've heard this from a carrier or from anybody these days. So the majority of the things that we're going to have are going to be available via PDF directly off the site. You can click it up, open it up, and save it. You can share it with people by email. We have a very limited supply as far as warehouse paper copies of these items. So we would encourage you at every turn of the way to try to utilize the PDF itself and share it in an electronic format. We know there are situations where you absolutely need paper. We can talk about that and any opportunities to do so in the future. But again, everything on the GIWL playbook is available with one click. So I definitely want you to write that address down for future use. Again, that's AIG.com/GIWL playbook. And now that we've kind of gone through the playbook itself, I want to go ahead and begin with the training for our guaranteed issue whole life product. Again, this is a product we launched about 4 years ago in the brokerage space. We've had a lot of success since then. In fact, we've reached levels of sales that we had projected out for several years down the road. We reached them in a year and a half, and we've found a lot of footing in the marketplace out there. There's a need for this type of product. And one of the things that we're trying to make sure we're doing is we're getting in front of the right audiences as far as agent bases to market and sell the product, to help them understand where the product fits, where it might not fit, and then give you some details on how to do business with AIG. We did try to make this a very streamlined process. It's a guaranteed issue product, so it really should process as quickly as that sounds it should. And we do know we've got our own internal issues, and we'll kind of touch on some of those as well. But I definitely want to make sure that at the end of this call, not only are you familiar with the product and where to get marketing materials, but that you're very comfortable with the process and being able to use our e-application to get business in and out as quickly as possible. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I know several of you on this call are not new to this space, so I'll bear with me as I go through some of the general highlights of the market itself. But when we decided to enter the market, we did realize that there was a general need out there, and most of that need is because either people never wanted to think about life insurance, they waited too long to try to get life insurance, and now they either can't qualify for traditional underwritten life insurance, or are in a stage of their life where they're still within a window where they're getting either rejected or table rated to a point where they can't afford the policy they're trying to get, and they still have the same needs that a lot of other people have, which is they don't want to leave any debts to their loved ones, or they want to leave a modest legacy to their loved ones. And so we knew with a product like this, there's a huge market still untapped, and we knew that there was an opportunity for us to bring a product to market that not only played well with the competition that was already out there, but also add some additional benefits to differentiate ourselves in the market. Again, the reason why somebody might be looking at a guaranteed issue whole life product, they may just be totally against taking any type of medical exams. They want permanent protection, so not term insurance, and maybe they didn't buy term insurance in time or didn't convert their term insurance in time. They don't want to burden their loved ones with their final expenses, and they're also on a fixed income, so they're looking for a product that's permanent, but also not going to fluctuate in the payments that they have to make on a monthly basis. So when we decided to build our product, we took a look at what was out there in the marketplace, and we wanted to make sure that if we were coming into the guaranteed issue space, that we looked similar to the competition, but weren't exactly like the competition. So you'll see that our product is a true guaranteed issue product with absolutely no medical questions. So there's never a question on there that asks about their medical history. There isn't any prescription verification checks. There aren't any medical exams. Our face amounts are from $5,000 to $25,000 in $1,000 increments, and our ages are from age 50 to age 85, age last. So again, up to age 85, which is one of the oldest ages that any insurance carrier offers in this space. This is a graded death benefit whole life product, meaning in years 1 and years 2, if the insured were to pass away, they would receive 110% of their premiums paid into their policy at that point. Beginning in year 3 and beyond, they would receive the full face amount upon death. In the event the death is an accident, they would receive the full face amount from day 1. In addition to the death benefit, AIG has always been a leader in what we call living benefit riders. With our guaranteed issue whole life, we didn't want to make them riders where they had to pay additional, so we built them into the pricing of the base product itself. So not only do they get a death benefit product, but they get the opportunity to access cash in 2 situations in the event one of them were to occur while the policy was in force. The first one is the chronic illness acceleration benefit. And again, benefit is the key word, not rider. It's built into the base policy. The chronic illness benefit is going to pay 100% of the premiums paid into the policy, up to 25% of the face amount with no waiting period, and it's a one-time lump sum payment when the insured is unable to perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living. Very similar trigger to a long-term care situation. Now again, it's a day 1 benefit, but as you can see, it's returning 100% of premiums paid, meaning that the longer this policy is in force, the more opportunity they have to access funds that can be significant to them. If their chronic illness was diagnosed 2 months after the policy has been in force, they've only got 2 months of premium that they can take out. The longer the policy is in force, they can take up to 25% of the face amount for that situation, and then the remaining 75% death benefit is still there when they pass away. The second living benefit is a terminal illness benefit, and this is going to pay 50% of the death benefit if they're diagnosed with less than 24 months to live, and this is again after the policy has been put in force. They receive this diagnosis. Another day 1 benefit that has more benefit the longer they're in than the policy, because again, the death benefit in year 1 and year 2 is 110% of the premiums paid into the policy. Year 3 and beyond is the full face amount. So starting in that clock in year 3, they now have 50% of that full face amount available to them if they were to be diagnosed with less than 24 months to live. They can take 50% of the death benefit in cash at that point to pay any medical expenses or do whatever is necessary at that point in their life, and then their beneficiaries will receive the remaining 50% of the death benefit when they file that claim at a later time. A couple of things to note about our GIWL product, and I want to make sure everybody is clear on some of these product requirements. For our policy, the insured must be the owner, meaning the insured must be able to cognitively make a decision to purchase and sign their own name. There cannot be a POA, there cannot be a different owner. The owner must be the insured, and again, this is at the time of issue. The owner can change after the policy has been issued, but at the time of application, the owner must be the insured. The payer can be different, so you could have an insured who is buying the policy and the owner of their policy, but the payer can be a spouse, an adult child, some other family member or friend who wanted to buy the policy or pay for the policy, but again, the insured must be the owner. We do require a Social Security number, which means that they must be a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen. Those are the only 2 that we would allow to purchase the policy. So although it is a guaranteed issue whole life product, there are some knockout questions on the application, and one of them would be, do you have a Social Security number? If you do not have a Social Security number, you cannot qualify for an application for a policy. We only allow 1 policy per insured in a 12-month period. So if you're across the table from a customer and they're debating on whether or not they want $5,000 or $7,000 in coverage, they may want to buy $7,000, because if they buy $5,000, they'd have to wait an additional 12 months to buy any additional coverage of our policy. And then beyond that, 2 policies or multiple policies on the books on the same insured can't exceed the total amount of $25,000 in death benefit. So we want to make sure we're very clear with them on the front end that if they're going to make a decision to purchase a policy, they want to buy the amount of death benefit that they want on that first conversation. If not, they're going to have to wait 12 months to purchase a second policy. We don't allow for replacements or conversions into this product, and the reason being is you've got a 2-year wait on a death benefit, so we don't want to encourage the activity of lapsing a policy or replacing a policy that has immediate death benefit or a closer timetable to them having immediate death benefit to reset that 2-year clock. We don't mind if they have other coverage elsewhere. We don't mind if they have other type of life insurance elsewhere. So that's not an issue. If they have other life insurance, that's fine. They can still apply for our product. We just do not accept replacement. That is another knockout question on the application. If you say, yes, we're replacing business, that application will not go through. From a payment perspective, we allow for bank drafts, credit cards, and Social Security debit cards. So again, this is recurring credit cards and the Social Security debit card as well as payment methods. We do not allow for direct bill, and we do not allow for the applications to be submitted along with a paper check. We must have either a bank draft form or a credit card form. And the payment date can either be an immediate draft or they can schedule a date out to the future. So if you were to take an application today, which is the 11th, but the customer didn't want their account to draft until the 1st of the month, you can opt for the 1st of the month. The policy does not go in force until we draft on the 1st of the month. The agent commission doesn't get paid until we draft on the 1st of the month, and the life insurance benefit doesn't start until those funds are applied after the 1st of the month. So they just need to be aware that if they future date a policy, they do not have coverage until that payment is applied to the policy. A couple of other additional items to be very clear on are our chargeback rules in regards to this product. We do look at things in different manner from a lapse perspective and a death perspective. If a policy is lapsed or surrendered in the first 6 months, there is a 25% chargeback on any commissions earned to that point. Beyond the 6 months, there's no additional chargeback. In the event of a customer death in year 1, we do charge back 100% of the commissions earned to that point. In year 2, we're going to charge back 50%. And this is a really good time to kind of talk about the ideal client for this type of product and where you want to position it and where you don't. I know several of you have been in this business long enough to know that there are a lot of carriers that get in the guaranteed issue whole life space and they get immediately out of the whole life space. And the reason being is that the mortality for a product like this is extremely important to the pricing and the profitability and the sustainability of being able to pay claims. So if you were to have a lot of initial customers come in with applications who were to pass away in the first 2 years, you don't have enough available to pay for anybody who's actually gotten to the full death benefit. So we really want to make sure that we're positioning this product in the right manner, in the right places. You don't want to look at this product as a last resort type product, or the type of product where you're going to give it to somebody who you know is in a position where they're probably not going to make it very long. There's a huge difference between having a situation that's chronic but not terminal, things that might disqualify them from simplified products or underwritten products, but you do know that they are maintaining their health, they are addressing their situations, and they have a life expectancy that's longer than that 2-year window. So we want to make sure that we're very clear on the fact that although this is guaranteed issue whole life, you definitely don't want to position it as a matter of anybody can have it and I'm going to position it to anybody in need. You want to make sure you're doing the right thing, not only for yourself and for the customer, but also for the company. Just to kind of give you a side-by-side with some of the other guaranteed issue whole life products that are out there. Again, we go up to $25,000 in face amount, which is the maximum face amount that you see in the guaranteed issue whole life space. We do start at $5,000, and I have heard others ask if we would go below that. Unfortunately, we don't, so we do start at the $5,000 face amount. We do know some of the other carriers have face amounts less than $5,000. We start our issue age at age 50. I know that there's one carrier out there that starts at 45, but we do go all the way to 85, which again is the oldest age you'll find available for a guaranteed issue whole life product. We do have the graded death benefit of 110% premiums paid. If you're in the guaranteed issue whole life space, you're gonna have a graded death benefit. And then again, we have those 2 additional benefits: the chronic illness benefit and the terminal illness benefit, which from our seat and our understanding, there's only one other carrier out there that has any additional benefits beyond the death benefit for their guaranteed issue whole life product. So we really feel like we're in there with the majority of opportunities that are out there, plus we've got 2 additional benefits that help to differentiate AIG from the competition. From a pricing standpoint, you'll find that we're we're right in line with the competition. We're either slightly better or slightly worse in certain sales, but for the most part, we're going to be right in line with a lot of the competition in regards to our pricing. And you'll find that when you add in the benefits that are additional to the base death benefit, the pricing is really very competitive to what's out there and offered in the field. So that's the product, and that's the the positioning for our product and what AIG is hoping to bring to the table. The other part of the process here is how do you get business submitted? And if anybody's done business with AIG for any other product line, you typically go on to a site like WinFlex and you run an illustration, and then once you get that quote, you go to eStation or now Connect, and you jump on something like iPipeline and you download a paper application kit. And then you can submit that paper application kit along with contracting if you're not contracted yet. That's the process that most people who've done business with AIG in the past might be used to. The guaranteed issue whole life process is totally different, so I want to make sure we're very clear on that. Step number one is extremely important, which is get appointed for the guaranteed issue whole life product. If you have an existing code, you might not have access to the GIWL product. So if you have not appointed specifically for the GIWL product and do not have a GIWL specific agent code, you definitely want to reach out to Anthony and the guys at AIM to get yourself set up, get you a 5-digit GIWL agent code. Once you have that code, you're going to want to go to a website, and that website is aig.com/GIWL. We try to make it very simple, aig.com/GIWL. And you're going to want to register for the site with that 5-digit code. That site is where you're going to be able to run the quote for the product, download a paper application kit if you choose to do paper applications, or use the e-application process, which we'll talk about. And the site is friendly to mobile devices. So if you've got internet connection, whether it's a smartphone, an iPad, or some other tablet, or a laptop computer, it's easy to use and very responsive design on those mobile devices. The quoting tool itself does give you an opportunity to take a look at some upsell opportunities. Again, all the forms are going to be housed on that aig.com/GIWL. And then if you're using the e-application, the reason why we encourage the e-application is because we're able to validate some data inside the platform to make sure that the payment information is correct, to make sure there isn't any issue with the payment information, and then also to validate any other things like your active agent code, etc. So once you go to aig.com/GIWL, this is the home screen that you'll see. If this is your first time going to the site, you're going to want to click on agent registration. And the information they ask is very simple. It's going to ask you for your first name, your last name, your date of birth, your phone number, and a personal email address. And it's important you use a personal email address and not a generic. This site is not used for any marketing. It's not used for any other push. It's only used for password resets. So if you use an info at and everybody uses info at and you're locked out somewhere, that email is not going to go to you. But if you use your own personal email, then of course, anytime there's a lockout situation, you can get that email to reset your password. It's going to require that you have a unique email address. So if you've already registered for the site with a different GIWL code with that email address, or if you've used it before and then you're trying to go in and set up a different username, that email address is going to come up as already used, or if you're sharing an email address. So you want to use a unique email address when you register for the site. You're going to put your 5-digit GIWL code where it says GIWL code, leave the other side blank where it says agency code, and then you're going to create your own username and your own password based on the password rules at the bottom. You'll hit create, and if something's wrong in your registration, whether it's your code not ready to be registered or your email is not unique or some other issue with your password, you're going to get that red X. If everything is okay when you hit create, you should get that thumbs up and says you're now ready to go, and you'll be able to go into the site and log in. Now once you've registered for the site, you're going to want to put your username and password here to get in and hit that orange button. If for some reason you forgot your username and your password, you can use the alternate login, which you can use your last name, your date of birth, and the last word of your social. But again, you have to be registered for the site for that to work. You click that orange button and you now get into the landing page for the portal itself. It's going to give you some high-level information about the product. Along the top of the screen, you'll see support, you'll see quote, you'll see forms, and then you'll see the name with a drop-down. If you click that drop-down, you'll be able to go into your profile in the event you need to change your phone number, your email address, something else in your profile. Dashboard, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. You can go to get a quote from here. Also, you can hit quote at the top to get the quote, or you can change your password in the event that you need to change your password for whatever reason. And then you can also log out from this drop down. I would encourage you that if you're done for the day to log out. The site does have a tendency to save in cookies, so sometimes you can have some issues if you don't log out every night. It'll look like you still have an open session, and then it might cause you some issues with submitting some applications. So I would encourage you from at least once a day to log out and then log back in the following day. But let's go to get a quote so we can kind of see how the quote engine works. You'll always see these benefit statements. So if you're on the phone with a customer, sitting across the table from a customer, however you're speaking with your proposed insured, you've got these benefit statements that you want to read to them so they understand what they're doing. Once they acknowledge and you click that acknowledge button, you can get to the quote page. The quote's very simple. You're going to select male or female. You're going to give us the date of birth. You can either quote by giving us a face amount, or you can quote by giving us a target budget. So if they say, hey, I only have $90 a month, what kind of face amount can I get? You can put $90 monthly, leave the coverage amount blank, select the state, and then hit the quote. Or if you don't want to do the target amount, you can leave the frequency as monthly, put the face amount that they want to buy, their state, and then hit get a quote. Once you hit get a quote, you'll see the dark blue box, which will tell you here's the face amount that you requested, and here's the monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, and annual rates for that face amount. And then if you see the light blue box just to the side of that, it gives you an opportunity to say, but for $5,000 more in death benefit, it only costs you X number of dollars a month more a month in order to get that. Would you like A or B? Again, the radial button next to it is what you'll click on when you're ready to move forward if you want to start the application process. Again, quote tool is very simple to use. There's not a lot of moving parts with the Guaranteed Issue Whole Life product, so you're really just building it based on their age, their gender, and then the type of face amount or how much they have per month. So once they've decided that they want to move forward, you now have two opportunities to take an application. In the site itself, you can either go forward with the electronic order entry or the e-application, or you can also download a paper application packet, whichever you choose. We prefer the electronic application method, but for those of you who want to do the paper application process, if you remember on that home screen after you've logged in, you'll see forms at the top. You'll click on forms, and then right here it says select your state to delay the state-specific form. So you'll click that drop-down to select your state. Once you've done so, you'll see all of the appropriate forms for that state. You'll click download the application packet, and then you'll print the application kit yourself to get it filled out and signed. The paper application kit will always have this cover sheet so that you know exactly what you need. It's going to be pre-printed with your name and your agent code that's in your profile, so you can't share paper applications with other agents. Every agent must be appointed first in order to gain access. These applications will always print with your name and your agent code. So if somebody else submits an app that you printed for them, your agent code is going to be credited as the agent of record on that policy, and you're going to get paid their commission. So please don't share any applications. At the top of the application is the fax number for where you'll send the transmittal for the paper application when you've completed it. And then you're going to move on to the actual application itself. Again, with a product like Guaranteed Issue, it's a very simple application. At the top, we're going to do part one, which is the generic information as far as their demographic information, name, address, birth date, social security number. And again, the first knockout question will be in this section, which is, are you a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident? Or do you have a green card? You'll click yes. If they say no, the application will be rejected. The second part, you're going to tell us about the policy you're building out, the amount of coverage, that question in regards to replacement, which again, we do not want any replacement business for this product. And then the beneficiary designation is in that section. And then the third section is, how are you planning on paying for it? Monthly, annually, semi-annual, quarterly, bank draft or credit card, and then filling out the appropriate form, whether it's a bank draft form or a credit card form. And then who will pay for the coverage, the information on that, and also the last knockout question, which is the payor must also be either a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, so we don't want any no's in that situation. The proposed insured is going to sign here. The agent's name and code and date and time is going to be stamped on the bottom of the application. So the process flow for the paper application, you go on to aig.com/GIWL, you run the quote, you download the forms. Once you complete those forms with the applicant, you want to make sure you've completed everything that you need to. You want to pre-screen those forms and then fax them into AIG. Once AIG gets them, it takes about 2 days to process the paper application, and then another couple of days to process the payment. So we're probably talking about a 3 to 5 day lag from submission to fully processed, unless you future dated the payment. But if you were doing an immediate draft, for example, if you submitted it today, we're probably looking at 5 business days before it's funded and in force. The online application process, again, is what we prefer all agents to utilize. We think it's just a streamlined process. It cuts down on bad, not in good order business. You get applications processed quicker. You get paid quicker. It's really a very simple process with a simple application like it is. We've just broken it out into a couple of screens to get you through the process as quickly as possible, and we've got a couple of signature options available. So again, let's start the process from the beginning. You've got the agent on the phone. You want to run the quote, or the customer in your office or across the table from you. You want to get a quote. You'll read those benefit statements. You'll get their acknowledgement. You'll hit continue and move forward. You're going to help build out that quote. They're going to select whichever opportunity they want. Let's say they want the upgraded benefit at 25,000 coverage for $128.81 a month. You'll click that radio button next to $128.81 a month, and then you'll hit start the application process. There are going to be some consents that you'll need to read to the customer themselves. Once they acknowledge those consents, you'll hit continue. And then what we did with the online applications, we took all 3 of those questions that might turn this application into a denial right up to the front. So, are they replacing business? Are they a legal resident or a U.S. citizen? Is the payor a legal resident or a U.S. citizen? Then we get the demographic information, get that beneficiary information, and then we get the payment information. The payment information page is going to default always to the owner insured being the payor. If that's going to be different, they'll want to click no, and then they'll get a different looking screen once they click no. But again, it's going to be either a bank draft or credit card. They'll schedule their date over here as the draft date. If you leave it blank, we'll assume what you wanted was for us to draft immediately. If you want to schedule a date in the future, you'll need to select the date there. On any bank draft submission, we do have a third-party system that we bounce all the information out of to make sure that the routing number is correct, that the account number is correct. It doesn't do a full verification, but it does cut down on a lot of errors. So there's some of the things that could be wrong, like the Social Security number on the account doesn't match the owner on the account, etc. So if you see any of those notes, you might just want to double check that something wasn't fat-fingered or reversed, or that there wasn't some information that was incorrectly given to you by the insured. And then there's a disclaimer and disclosure down at the bottom that you will need to select and move forward. The credit card is going to be a little bit different. The same screen, we don't do that third-party check, but we do a quick validation to make sure that the account number is correct. We do ping out to the credit card and do a 1 cent hold on anything that's future dated. On anything that's going to be drafted immediately, we will hold the actual premium on the time that this is done. In the event you're doing the bank draft and you've exceeded the amount of times trying to correct the information, it's going to give you an opportunity to take a different payment method at that point, so you can pivot to a credit card sale in the event that occurs. Again, those same disclaimers are at the bottom, and then you move forward. If the payor is different and you select no, the payor is not the primary insured, we're going to need their demographic information as well, and so you're going to see the screen change when you select that. Once you've gotten through all the payment information, there's this additional disclaimer and disclosure. I will tell you that almost all agents default to the top, where they can review those online on their own time, or they they can select that you like to email them. Very few have ever told me that they actually read the disclaimers out to the customer over the phone. Once the customer's agreed to one of those, they would check that they've agreed to the statement above, and they're going to continue. At this point, you as the agent will have two options. If the customer is ready to move forward, you want to hit submit and continue and select one of the signature options available. If the customer at this point kind of hesitates and says, actually, I want to take an extra couple hours to think about this or sleep on it before I make the final decision, they click save. The agent will click save, and any saved applications will be in the dashboard. Now, again, this is all a pre-sale portal, so none of this is after the sale. You're not going to find anything that you've already submitted or any processing updates like, is this one still pending? Did the payment fail? All of that is in Connect. The only thing you'll see in the dashboard is any applications that you hit save on. You will also be able to see anything that you hit submit or you sent for signature via our DocuSign process by email. And if we're pending any signatures, you'll see that status on this side as well. So let's talk about the signature options. You've got two e-sign documents now, or e-sign documents via email. If you select or submit and continue with e-sign documents now, you'll have this confirmation statement to read your customer. They must give a verbal yes to all of those statements, and then you hit continue. And then you're going to agree to electronic records and signatures. So you'll do this. Again, this is when you're sitting face-to-face with your customer, whether they're in your office or you're in their home or you've met somewhere. They hit continue, they hit start. They're going to click on that sign button. They're going to adopt their own signature, and then they'll click on the portion of the application where it requires their signature. They'll hit finish, and then that should submit directly to us once they hit finish. At this point in your portal, you'll have the ability to download a completed copy of their application and any additional forms that are necessary to download. I keep mentioning doing business over the phone. For any agent who's out in the field but decides that they would prefer to call their customer or their customer would prefer to be called, you can actually do this business over the phone using the e-sign documents via email. So you do follow the same application process. You select e-sign documents via email, and then you hit submit and continue. When you hit continue, you're gonna give us the insured's personal email address. You hit continue, and then they're gonna open up that email on their own computer, and then they're going to follow the same DocuSign process that the e-sign now process was. Again, those same confirmation statements must be read to them. They must verbally agree. And now what you'll see is, again, in your dashboard, what's pending. If there's a pending signature, if it didn't submit for whatever reason, it's stuck in the platform itself, you'll see it in your dashboard. In the event there's a payor that's different from the insured, they'll both receive an email on their own personal email accounts. So they would both need to open up and complete the signature process. So sometimes you'll see a pending signature and a completed signature. That most likely means that either the insured or the payor didn't complete their e-sign process. You can reach out to them and say, hey, not sure if you saw the email, but you do need to adopt your signature and sign the application before it submits. So that's the process itself. Again, we try to do everything we can to make it a simple quoting tool, a simple tool to write an e-application, and really streamline the process for a guaranteed issue product, which it should be a streamlined process when it comes to a product like this. Again, we started the presentation now with the GIWL playbook, but I want to reiterate the address, aig.com/GIWL playbook. A great resource for you guys to begin to get information on your own about the product. Hopefully this training gave you a lot of the information that you were looking for. But again, this is a great resource to go out there and to reinforce some of the things you might have learned today. Just a couple of quick hits on state availability. The product is not available in New York or Maine. The chronic illness and the terminal illness benefits are not available in California. And then DC also does not have the chronic illness, but does have the terminal illness. And for any of you who might be doing business in the state of Pennsylvania, they do require an additional form to be filled out along with the filed application. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to call our sales desk at 877-399-7747, option 1. Again, that's 877-399-7747. 7747 option 1. Or you can send them an email at internal.lifesales@aglife.com. So again, this is for anybody doing business in Pennsylvania. Those are actually good numbers and email addresses to save anyway. They're a great resource. They support all of our agents in the field, and they answer a lot of questions. That's also the same number you call in the event you're having an issue with being locked out of the platform or having an issue registering for the platform. That is the conclusion of the presentation. I hope I covered everything that you guys were hoping to learn on the call in regards to AIG, the Guaranteed Issue Whole Life product, how to do business with AIG, and what's the best way to get a NAP in and out of the door as quickly as possible. At this point, Anthony, I'll turn it over to you and let you wrap up the call unless they want to open the floor up for questions.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Paul. That was some great information. We truly appreciate having you straight from AIG. We're going to go ahead and open up the lines for some questions. So bear with us while we unmute you guys. Now feel free, while you guys are unmuted, feel free to ask some questions. We'll have Paul here for a little bit longer.
I've got one. This is Gene, but I've got one.
Sure.
With most with terminal illness, like for example, somebody has a $100,000 death benefit, and they use $50,000 of it for the terminal illness. Then from that point on, the client only pays for $50,000 of death benefit instead of continuing to pay for the full $100,000 of death benefit. Is that the way this is going to work also?
The premiums are not going to adjust, so the premiums will continue to remain the same. So if they were to take out the benefit, basically it's an early cash benefit on a portion of the death benefit, but the premiums would stay the same. They would continue to pay those premiums.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
That's the only question I had.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying that was the only question I had. Thank you for answering it.
Great.
Okay. Paul, just a question: is the only options as you noted was credit card or bank draft? But I also saw direct bill in there. Is there a direct bill quarterly, semi-annual, or annual?
Unfortunately, there's not, and the application was filed before they had made decisions exactly on how they wanted to accept payment. But with a product like Guaranteed Issue Whole Life, what we found is direct bill leads to a very high lapse ratio. So we don't allow for direct bill. Now, what's kind of standard operating procedure around here is that if an application begins out as a recurring credit card or a bank draft, and then those payments fail in the future, it actually will kind of flip to a direct bill, and we'll start to send direct bills to try to keep that policy in force. But again, we've found that it very rarely helps us out. So we only accept on an initial premium, and when the application is sent, we need either a bank draft form or a credit card form. We don't accept a direct bill as an option.
Okay, got it. And one last, in regards to replacement, is that all replacements? In other words, could you replace another GIWL from another carrier?
Yeah, again, we don't want replacement business. So if an insured already has a policy in force somewhere, we prefer them to keep that in force, and if they can afford the second policy, we'd be fine with that. But we don't want them to turn off a policy that maybe they're already 6 months into a 2-year clock to reset that clock. Right. Or even worse, a day one death benefit on an SI product. So we want to make sure that they're not put in that position.
Got it.
But they definitely can have another policy somewhere else that's still in force, and add the AIG policy on top of that. So that's always an option if they can afford it.
I'm not new to AIG. I sell a lot of their term product, but does AIG have a non-GIWL? In other words, do they have a first dollar final expense yet?
We do not. So this guaranteed issue whole life is our first entree into the senior market space, into the final expense space. We're in constant conversation internally about what the next step is and what the next type of product is, and we're getting pulled in a couple of different directions. Part of the situation is we're getting to the point where we're doing non-invasive underwriting or streamlined underwriting on some of our existing products. So at the lower face amounts for our term and our permanent insurance products, they're looking to do that. But again, that still doesn't fill that true SI window. But there's more to come on that. I can't, at this point, I couldn't tell you for sure if that's the direction we'll head, but it's definitely one of the things that we're kicking around internally about, what's the next thing to round out the portfolio. But currently, we only offer the guaranteed issue whole life product in the final expense space.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you do have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us here at AIM, and we'll take care of that for you. Other than that, we're going to be ending the webinar, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you again,
appreciate
Paul.
it.